In the last couple of months, we've heard plenty of rumors about Marvel Studios looking to delay upcoming Avengers films and possibly even splitting Secret Wars into two films. Now, allegedly, the next film that's going to be the split, for all intensive purposes, what would be known as Secret Wars Part 2, is allegedly going to be called Avengers Forever and will release on the 20th anniversary of the MCU. When I say take this with a grain of salt, I mean take this with a million grains of salt in a giant bucket, because that's what it's worth up until it's confirmed. Now, do I personally believe that there's going to be delays in the upcoming MCU schedules that see multiple delays? Yes. Do I believe that the Avengers films will get some delays? Yes. Do I also believe that Secret Wars will either be super long or split into two? Well, if the story is as ambitious as it sounds, yeah, I could see it happening. So the latest report is stating that Avengers Forever will release in May of 2028, aka exactly 20 years after Iron Man first debuted and kicked off the MCU. And it's called Avengers Forever because it would be Secret Wars Part 2, but it would bring back everybody. So we're talking about Secret Wars being the build-up and Avengers Forever being the blow-off to literally everything and every single person that's appeared in the MCU in a giant collision course. This would include everybody that they could bring back or possibly get to show up. And sort of that big celebration final hurrah to give you a sort of send-off to everybody before tie up all these loose ends and do what Secret Wars does, which is set up some sort of softish, but not really a giant reboot, just kind of a reset point. In my opinion, this would be perfect. I mean, just think about that. 20 years of the MCU. That's pretty monumental. And again, it's still the biggest film franchise in the world. It will continue to be. This film, if it turns out to be true, would pretty much demolish, I think, everything else in box office history because of the amount of time that you had to build this up and what you could do and bringing back so many fan favorite characters and tying up all these things, and nostalgia plays a huge part. I mean, it truly would be something that would, pull in everybody. Like, everybody would be watching this thing. And at that point, you're almost a decade removed from Avengers Infinity War. So there's a lot that they could pull off here and a lot that could be set up. And you think about the whole idea of them bringing in all the X-Men stuff, the Sony stuff, doing callbacks, giant crossovers, having more or less everybody be an Avenger, and this giant war that just breaks out against all the villains and whoever they can get back from the multiverse. I mean, it would be pretty epic. And I do think that there is some truth to this, because I've talked about it before. I've heard that they're definitely thinking about splitting Secret Wars because it is getting too big and it can't be contained in one film. Again, those reports came out at the same time I heard it, so I think there is some validity to it. And I do think that this is something that they're going to really look at. And if they can lock in some contracts, they know they're going to have the biggest film of all time. I mean, could this be the first film to break $4 billion? I think it could. Honestly, I do think it could. I mean, there'd be so much nostalgia driving it that it's hard to imagine that it can't.